When a gang of rich boys in Arizona proved time and time again to be above the law, committing all sorts of crimes and broadcasting them all over the internet, it was only a matter of time before they would get into something much more shocking. And even then, they may or may not face justice.
Right now, I'd like to thank the sponsor of today's video, Incogni. That's because recently I've been trying to find a way to get my name off of all of those marketing databases that I've never consented to be on. It's hard to find a definitive, solid list of all of these companies that take this data and spread it all over the internet. There have been numerous data breaches from different platforms throughout recent years that have only been adding to the problem. Requesting to be removed off of all of these manually could take you years to accomplish. That's where Incogni comes in. You can just put your information into Incogni and they will send a data protection law compliance request to all of these different companies and demand that they remove all of your data from these different companies' databases. In-app, you'll get a dashboard that will show you the day-by-day process in getting your data out of the hands of these different companies. They'll even deal with any objections from their side. Not only do companies get your information so that they can market off of you, they also get as much data as they can to build a customer profile of you and sell it to other companies as well who will use it however they please. They can get your names, aliases, social security number, usernames and passwords, and even your physical home address and specific online activity. It's pretty easy to see how that could go badly fairly quickly. You'll notice that we've gone over quite a few stalking cases on this channel. The different people lookup sites that are out there right now offer up all of your personal information at a price, and basically anyone who's willing to pay can go and get it. This can lead to all sorts of harassment, identity theft, scams, and even stalking. Someone can even look up your license plate as you're driving down the road and find out who you are. Not only that, but these websites will often link you to your own family members within their database. Incogni's easy. Just make an account, give them the right to work on your behalf, and watch them get to work. Take back your personal data with Incogni. Just use my code DIRETRIP at the link in the description below to get 60% off an annual plan. Incogni is available risk-free for 30 days, so there's no harm to try it out. Here we have one of the most truly infuriating cases that I've covered in a while, in my opinion at least. The boys in this story sound like straight-up, corny teenage drama villain characters. If you have a hard time stomaching smug rich kids and their enabler parents, then buckle up. Our story starts with a group of miscreants who terrorized the city of Gilbert, Arizona, a city with a population of over 200,000 in the southeast portion of the Phoenix metropolitan area. Gilbert is known as being a pretty middle-class area with a high cost of living, quite a bit higher than the national average in the United States. As you'd assume, such an area attracts a number of wealthier people. While that isn't a problem on its own, it is a problem when spoiled rich kids run amok. Gilbert was home to one of such groups. The Gilbert Goons. The Gilbert Goons were a group of wealthy teenagers known all throughout the town for their shenanigans, their pranks, and their straight-up crimes. Since at least as far back as 2022, local law enforcement had known of the Goons as being a violent group. Over time, numerous lawsuits came to be placed against individuals associated with the Goons. One of the Goons was the son of a man running for mayor in Gilbert, Shane Krauser. One evening in July, Shane's son, along with other members of the Goons, confronted a man and his girlfriend, trying to get them to fight. The son, with his companions, threatened the couple, daring them to fight back. Shane's son then dropped to the ground and started doing push-ups in front of them, demonstrating his tremendous strength in order to startle them. A video of this incident was later shared around online. Shane Krauser took some heat for the video, but he denied his son was a goon. He defended him by saying that there was no physical confrontation and that the kids were merely being disrespectful. However, many other cases related to the group did indeed include physical violence. 3 different lawsuits connected to the Goons involved a local school principal of the Riggs Elementary School, Jamie Lander, her husband, and her stepson. In May of 2023, the principal's stepson attacked a 17-year-old boy in a Mesa park. The lawsuit claims that her stepson had planned the attack and threatened to commit murder. In the end, all charges against the boy were dropped. The violence was cranked up a notch one night in August of 2023. This was when a man named Richard Cooner claimed that his son was attacked in the parking lot of an In-N-Out Burger by a group of the Goons.
He was able to back up his claims with video evidence when video of the attack began to spread on social media. This was all made worse by the fact that Richard had informed the school district that his son had been receiving death threats for quite some time now from the goons, and that the school had done absolutely nothing in order to prevent it before his son was finally jumped that night. In a lawsuit Richard filed, he accused the goons of causing his son multiple injuries, including broken and missing teeth, a concussion, facial fractures, skull fractures, and various other serious injuries. The attackers were listed as none other than the previously named mayoral candidate's son and the school principal's son. The attack seems to have been unprovoked and done entirely for fun. Again, charges against the group were dropped completely. A lawyer in Scottsdale named Richard Lyons filed a lawsuit against 17 different teens known to be members of the Gilbert Goons. In this lawsuit, he accused them of assaulting people and sharing the videos of the attacks all over social media. After the attacks, the goons would often continue to taunt and harass their victims and even their family members. They would tease them by saying that they were above the law, nothing would ever be done to stop them, and they would even drive by their homes and bang on the doors and windows as well. Aside from the mayoral candidate's son and the principal's stepson, this group included several other prominent individuals. These included Dominic Turner, age 20, Talon Vigil, age 19, Taylor Sherman, also 19, Jacob Meisner, who was 17, Treston Billy, aged 18, and William Hines, who was also age 18. In addition, there were Talon Renner, age 17, and his older brother Kyler. The Renner family consisted of Talon Renner, his older brother Kyler, their sister, their father Travis, and Travis's wife, Becky. Growing up, Talon and Kyler were often very rambunctious and seemed to enjoy causing chaos and intimidating others. Previously, their father, Travis, was married to another woman. This woman has since given some insight into the family dynamic. Talon and Kyler were somewhat ringleaders within the Gilbert Goons. This woman described Talon as being both an angry kid and a fighter, saying, "He holds in a lot of aggression, and when he snaps, he snaps." She did say that she felt bad for Talon, on the other hand, feeling that he was often misunderstood. Travis, the father, was a multi-millionaire gym owner and high-level employee of the Relentless Media Agency. He absolutely felt he was above the law and lived quite a chaotic life behind the scenes. He was described as being an alcoholic who was basically always smoking weed. The businessman would get his drugs from his own son, Kyler, who dealt them. Kyler dealt cocaine, marijuana, mushrooms, ecstasy, Percocets, and Xanax, basically anything you could think of. Kyler, like Talon and the other goons, was a violent bully as well. In fact, he was charged in connection with 2 separate attacks at a parking garage and a house party that came to be called gang violence in 2022. When this happened, Travis tried to defend him when he was taken into custody, but he himself ended up getting arrested on suspicion of drug possession and paraphernalia charges. As far back as when Talon was 11 years old, he was taking drugs like acid and marijuana provided by his older brother. He was given a good supply of alcohol as well. For his 14th birthday, his brother got him a bunch of marijuana gummies, something the family doesn't seem to have opposed. Talon had plenty of issues at school, where he played football. On one occasion, in relation to his goon activities, he was on the verge of being expelled. This is where Travis decided to flex his wallet and make a $10,000 donation to the American Leadership Academy, Talon's high school. He also sponsored various sports programs in order to prevent his son from ever getting into any real trouble or facing any punishment for his actions. This complete lack of parenting and consequences all throughout Talon's life would mold him into a monster that felt he was immune to any and all punishment. It was October of 2023. This was when a rager of a house party was being held on the corner of 194th and Via del Rancho. The party had so many people that at least 30 cars were parked all over the neighborhood as over 250 kids partied all about.
Trying to get a hold of the police, there's a whole there must be 30 cars out in front of our house and the neighbors. A bunch of teenage kids doing all, I don't know, they're all running around. I don't know what they're doing, but...
This alone, of course, annoyed the neighbors, but this annoyance was taken to new heights when they saw the teenagers' behavior. Residents called 911 to complain as the teens jumped their fences and came into their yards, drove recklessly and hit other cars, and even flashed their weapons to any citizens who complained, often yelling at them in the process.
We've got kids running with beer bottles. They're hitting each other. We just saw 2 car accidents. I think they're too drunk. They're just driving away after they hit each other. Okay.
It was immediately clear to anyone watching that this wasn't going to go well and some level of violence was bound to take place. Over 40 minutes of 911 calls were made to the police and later made available to the public. In the calls, neighbors clearly said, someone's going to get hurt, someone's going to get killed, with one even saying, these kids have weapons on them. The police came out to the scene, but they decided that they weren't going to do anything. Instead, they moved on to answering a call about an even more wild party where some domestic violence had been taking place and left the area. With the police deciding that nothing was amiss, the Gilbert Goons had free rein to do whatever they wanted. This was when one of the goons, Dominic Turner, who went by the street name D-Money, stole the gold chain of another kid, ripping it right off of his neck. He, like the others, felt that he was entitled to anything he wanted, knowing that he would never face any real consequences. This was when a friend of the theft victim, named Preston Lord, decided he would confront Dominic and get the chain back. While it was a valiant attempt, Preston was soon jumped by a group of the goons consisting of Dominic, Jacob, William, Taylor, and Treston. Also within the group were Talon Renner himself, along with the very similarly named Talon Vigil. I'll be referring to these two by their full names from now on to avoid any confusion. The group surrounded Preston and began to give him a beating. This beating quickly spiraled out of control, shocking others at the party. Talon Renner posted to Snapchat, bragging about pulling off some hammer punches on the victim. Talon Vigil punched Preston so hard that he collapsed to the ground. As he lay on the ground, Treston began to stomp on his head repeatedly. As Preston was on the ground dying, the group started to dance around on top of his body, even getting down and humping his limp body in order to further humiliate him and satisfy their own twisted desires. Preston was left barely clinging to life as other partygoers dragged him out of the house and into the middle of the street. A slew of 911 calls soon came in telling the police that a teen was attacked and that a group of trained lifeguards who happened to be at the party were giving him CPR and trying to revive him.
Okay, how old is the patient?
About like 17-ish, young kid.
Okay. Are you able to do CPR? Can you walk me through it?
Oh, there's a bunch of certified lifeguards. There's a bunch of certified lifeguards right now. We all know how to do CPR.
Other callers told 911 dispatchers that the group of teenagers had ski masks on, saying that there were about 15 of them.
Did you see the people that assaulted them? Did you see them well enough to get any description, or did you not see it actually happen?
Oh, they all had ski masks on, and it was...
How many was it?
A lot.
Like 4 or 5 or more?
Like 15.
It's highly likely that, during the chaos, the facts were getting mixed up. One video taken did show a figure in an all-white outfit with black shoes, likely Treston, running away from the scene on foot, followed by 6 to 8 other teens. In the footage, they can be heard laughing, yelling, "Yo, what the fuck," and "You hit that dude," as they disappeared into the night. Taylor Sherman later said that after the fight, as they called it, that he, Talon Renner, Jacob, and Dominic got into his car and fled the scene. This was when Talon Renner told them, "I might have hospitalized that kid. I hit him pretty hard." The police came back out to the home to find Preston lying there in the street. They tried to revive him there as well, to no avail. They were forced to send him off to the hospital instead. Eventually, the sun came up. The next morning, kids wandered all over the streets of the neighborhood, stumbling around and barfing all over the place. They acted like nothing had happened the previous night, behaving as if any other rager of a party had just ended. They didn't have a care in the world. Talon Renner, especially, apparently took great pride in the attack. He couldn't help but brag to anyone who would listen about what he had done for the foreseeable future. The goons sent many messages back and forth to each other about the attack. Talon Renner sent one of the others, Taylor Sherman, a message saying, "I might have hospitalized that kid. I hit him pretty hard." He sent the others a video that he had taken of the beating as well. Preston was held in the hospital for 2 days, just barely hanging on to life. All the while, Talon Renner's bragging continued. His messages escalated to those such as, "Oh, I put that kid on life support." Preston held on for a while, but unfortunately, though, his injuries were too severe. He passed away after 2 days of a serious brain injury. After which, Talon Renner told the other goons, "Bro, that kid died." Online, Talon Renner later wrote, "I got in a fight, a big group fight, and I accidentally killed a kid. I guess I'm just too strong." One of the other goons responded with, "Tresty or Talon might be getting charged with murder." Tresty being Treston, the one who stomped on Preston's head as he was on the ground. After Preston's death, the whole community of Gilbert and the surrounding area went into an outrage. Enough was enough. They were sick of the Gilbert Goons. The police called for anyone who could assist in identifying the attackers to please come forward. They requested all doorbell cam and CCTV footage from that day and time that they could get, trying to piece the whole timeline together. They quickly announced that the case was being treated as a homicide. The FBI soon hopped onto the case as well, offering a hefty $10,000 reward for any information leading to an arrest in the case. Friends and family of Preston, along with other members of the community, held a candlelight vigil in his memorial at Combs High School as they prayed that justice would soon come to fruition. Talon Renner, upon hearing about Preston's death, continued to brag, saying that the funeral would definitely have to be a closed casket after what he had done. While he seemed jovial about the whole thing, his father, Travis, wasn't so carefree. The millionaire business owner, worried about his son's future and his own reputation in business, decided to do what he had always done in the past. He decided that he would intervene himself and make sure that his son escaped from justice. Travis scrambled to hide all of the evidence from that night that he could. He even decided to try to do all he could to pass the blame onto Talon Vigil, as the two boys' names were nearly identical. One of his employees, a woman named Ashley Reynolds, came forward to tell the media that she was part of a cover-up operation that began around when Preston passed away. She said that both Travis Renner and her other boss, Adam Kiefer, the CEO of Relentless Media Agency, openly talked about how they planned to cover up the case. She said that Travis seemed mainly concerned about his finances, feeling that he would ultimately end up getting sued over this. It seems that Travis had broken up with his wife, Becky, before all of this went down. However, she was still very close with the family and heard all about what was going on. She said that Travis contacted his lawyer, who advised him to hide Talon Renner until the injuries to his hands could heal before bringing him back to town and putting him back in school. So, allegedly, Travis and Adam decided that they would ship Talon Renner out to the family's $850,000 cabin in the woods about 3 hours away in an area called Sholo. There, the boy would lay low for a while his hands healed and the heat hopefully died down. While Talon Renner stayed at the cabin, Becky continued to message him on Snapchat. He sent her a picture of himself walking the family dog. In the picture, it seemed that his jaw was swollen. Allegedly, Travis and Adam decided that they would use their money and connections to send Talon Renner off to Mexico once he healed up. Adding further to the community's outrage, Travis Renner was given special valet parking services when he came down to the police station, something no one else ever got, in order to avoid the paparazzi and preserve his image. While the police later apologized for this, they only did so after a few hit pieces were released. While the Renners were dealing with this in their own way, the other Talon of the Gilbert Goons, Talon Vigil, was bragging to his girlfriend about the attack as well, telling her, "I knocked that kid out." Days later, a screenshot of a Snapchat conversation began to circulate that showed that Talon Vigil was bragging about the attack. Talon Vigil had flat out confessed in his messages, saying, "I hit a kid and this kid hit his head, and then they kicked his head in the ground and then I got word he died, so IDK." After this chat was leaked, Talon Vigil flew into damage control and released a message online. In this message, he actually came up with the same idea as Travis, to pass all the blame onto Talon Renner for having a similar name. In this message, Talon Vigil said that he was actually the hero that night. He wrote, "Yo, I understand everyone is hurting right now and wants to find the kids that did this, but you got the wrong Talon. The real kid's name is Talon Renner. Please stop accusing me. I was there. I tried to help the kid off the street. Thank you." For the time being, no charges whatsoever were made against Talon Vigil. He continued life as normal. It wasn't long, though, before police started getting the names of the primary suspects in the murder and began the process to obtain search warrants. When the public asked why it was taking so long for anything to be done despite the assailants' names being known, the police chief said, "An arrest is not enough. It's a conviction that we are looking for." Frustrated by the perceived lack of action by the authorities, the Gilbert community started to speak up online. Many spoke of what had happened the night of the murder, sharing their own recollections and providing the public with more details. They began to hold more vigils as they demanded justice. This is where two prominent members of this newly formed group, Christine Brennan and Angela Rogers, created a forum that they called Lily Waterfield, where they would post any and all updates that they could find about the case and the suspects. They said, "We have called this organized bullying. A group of kids who can act out with impunity because there is a larger group that helps them. The goons ruin this community because they think they can do whatever they want." The community began to go after the parents of the goons as well, blaming them for allowing their kids to act this way and even covering up their crimes. They started to leave scathing Yelp reviews slamming the Renners' businesses. The Renner family rushed to create a bunch of fake accounts to flush out all of the negative comments. Eventually, they started to receive threats of legal action from the kids' parents. The mother of one of the goons in the attack, Jacob, threatened the group on Facebook. The mother, named Wendy, wrote, "My son was at the party but had no involvement with Preston. Would you turn your child in if he was at a party where something awful happened? For you and everyone here to judge and attack my family, parenting, and livelihood is completely unacceptable and full-blown slander." Talon Renner still hadn't returned to school. Travis said that this was because he was being labeled as a murderer on social media. On November 2nd, the dean of students at ALA Gilbert North got in touch with the police to tell them that Talon Renner being involved in the murder had become a common topic throughout the school. By November 6th, though, Talon Renner was back in school, acting as if nothing had happened. Shortly after, though, he was approached by some detectives who confiscated his phone, took some of his photographs, and even a sample of his DNA. They noted that he had some discoloration on his hands around the knuckles and a small cut near his left wrist that hadn't yet healed. The police even tried to raid the Renner's home, but when they got there, nobody was there. Travis, soon after, said that he was advised by his lawyer to not let his son speak with any detectives. For weeks after the murder, Talon Renner was still allowed to play football at his charter high school, even after the police served him a warrant. Talon Renner was seen performing as usual as the running back for the American Leadership Academy on November 17th, and was even awarded MVP status. The school defended its decision to allow him to keep playing football by saying that the police hadn't officially named any suspects. They ignored that the police, although they hadn't come out with this information publicly, had already served a search warrant for his phone and DNA while he was there on campus for all to see. They have added that they now regret the choice after catching heat. The head football coach and athletic director, Randy Reisdorf, was later fired after the whole debacle. Talon Renner's ex-stepmom said that Travis had a habit of bragging about paying to get his kids out of anything, saying, "Travis talks down on police and brags about how he can buy their kids out of trouble." The police took months and months to name all of the suspects. This was something that sent the community into even more of a rage. It was very evident to them that the wealthy parents of these boys had given them the privilege of having their identities hidden. It took 5 whole months for the police to release the names of 7 teens that they felt were directly involved in the murder. They found the most evidence in the case when they looked into Talon Renner. His repeated bragging, his Snapchats, and his various other social media posts were a goldmine of evidence and admissions. Talon Renner, Talon Vigil, Dominic Turner, Jacob Meisner, William Hines, and Taylor Sherman were arraigned on March 13th in the Maricopa County Superior Court on charges of first-degree murder and kidnapping. William was a no-show to the arraignment. Instead, his lawyer went and signed a not guilty plea on his behalf. Jacob and Dominic were also hit with aggravated robbery charges, likely related to the gold chain. All of the young men pleaded not guilty to all of their charges. Treston Billy was caught and arraigned the next day, where he also pleaded not guilty to first-degree murder, kidnapping, and aggravated robbery. All of the young men are going to be charged as adults, even the ones who are technically under the age of 18. Despite this, Talon Renner was held in juvenile detention along with Jacob. It seems that the boys are all being held separately as possible so that they can't talk to each other and get their stories straight. Within detention, they're forbidden from even making eye contact with one another. While keeping all 7 completely separated is a challenge, it seems to be working, and it seems to be necessary. While investigating, the police found that the suspects had already discussed with each other about how they could cover their tracks. Even worse, Taylor Sherman had even discussed with an unrelated goon about how they could conspire to get the $10,000 reward offered by the FBI. This other goon had texted Taylor, "Yo, tell me you didn't delete the video of the dead kid. It's $10K if you give to the popo." Taylor responded with, "Huh? That's going to make me a victim, you stupid fuck." It's likely that Taylor meant suspect and not victim. In another conversation, Taylor had texted another goon saying, "Tal and Renner killed someone with his hands." In other texts, Jacob had begged everyone he could to delete the videos of the attack, but it was too late. The goons were used to recording and sharing the videos of their attacks. By now, they had learned that there wouldn't be any consequences even if they did. They didn't really understand the concept of keeping evidence away from the public. Jacob and William were the only two of the group who had previously been charged in relation to violent attacks. As a result, they seemed to be the only two of the group who were concerned with getting rid of the evidence themselves without their parents' intervention. Still, though, William came to confess to the police directly, saying, "Straight up bro, I was drunk, heat of the moment. I kicked him one time and I kicked his leg." It wasn't too long before the arrested goons began to turn on each other in jail. After a short time apart, they quickly decided that they would rather save themselves than the whole group. A 1,100-page massive police report was revealed on March 28 that listed the extensive amount of evidence in the case. There were numerous videos, pictures, texts, phone calls, Snapchat conversations that easily allowed the police to piece together a timeline of events that night and in the weeks after. The Queen Creek Police Department has said that they recommend pressing charges against the owners of the home where the fatal attack took place. Although Travis has not yet been arrested in connection with attempting to cover up his son's involvement, it isn't off the table. There has still been a ton of public pressure against him and his businesses, to put it lightly. It seems that Relentless Media Agency has, at the least, scrubbed evidence of all of their involvement with Travis, or at the most, cut ties with him. There are remnants of their interviews with him on Facebook and other platforms, but aside from a few still photos, the links are all dead. Ashley, the whistleblower employee who spoke to the media about Travis's plan to cover up the crime, has been hit with a restraining order by Adam Kiefer and Relentless Media. Adam has posted that his former assistant is no longer with the company and he is now accusing her of theft. The ALA school has been doing damage control to deny that Travis had ever given them any donations in order to keep his son out of trouble. They said, "There have been a number of unfounded and irrational allegations associating ALA with the tragic death of Preston Lord. We can say unequivocally that ALA has never received or accepted a $10,000 donation, or any donation from the Renner family or anyone indicted in Preston Lord's death, nor from any of their family businesses." Being that this whole thing was bad for not only the business as a whole, but also the employees, OHM Fitness terminated their relationship with Becky Renner. Becky had been working as a manager in charge of hiring and mentoring people, something that she was no longer felt fit to do. Kyler Renner, Talon Renner's older brother, is currently in jail for his previous crimes and doesn't seem to be up for release anytime soon. Travis has listed his White Wing home up for rent. It seems that the family has moved elsewhere. Talon Vigil, age 17, was being held on a $1 million bail. It wasn't long before his bail was posted. Despite him admitting to taking part in the murder and numerous Snapchat conversations, he is currently out in the world. He seems to be held up in his home with an ankle monitor. He's all set to come back to court very soon. Brennan and Rogers from the Gilbert Community Group are still working to get justice for Preston Lord. They said that this includes anyone who tried to cover up the crime being held accountable. They are still hoping for Travis to be charged for covering up the crime. They're hoping to take their initiative national, as they have seen similar cases of injustice gain traction after appealing to a larger scale. I'm hoping that this video might help with that. As of the making of this video, this is where we're at. It seems that a much larger trial is scheduled for November. We'll just have to see where this goes, so let me know in the comments below what kind of sentences you think these young men will be hit with, if any. Once again, thank you for watching my video. If you found it interesting, please give it a like, it really helps me out in the algorithm, and feel free to subscribe if you want to see more content like this. If you're interested, I've started a podcast with a couple of friends called the NBR Podcast. If you like this show, you'll probably enjoy that as well. Go ahead and follow me on social media if you want. I mean, if anything were to ever happen to this channel, that would probably be the only way you'd ever hear about it. I always appreciate when people follow me on Patreon as well. There you can get videos early, ad-free, and uncensored. And hey, now we've got channel memberships up too, where you can get the same benefits. This has been your host, Kyle. Thank you, and good night.